Hello, welcome to this video. My name's Andy. This is the next in the next series of flipped preaching videos. Remember, the idea is giving you some things to think about before the Sunday when we come together in church to look at a particular Bible passage and think how it works in our lives. So giving you a head start. Okay, now the next Sunday is the first in Advent. It's the first in what's called the stumbling for my words. It's the first in the new church year. The church has its own annual cycle which starts at the first Sunday in Advent. So this is the first of the new year. Happy New Year to you all. Now it's a time when we change our primary gospel for the Bible passages for Sundays. Until now, if you've been watching these videos, we've been looking at the Gospel of Matthew. But now we change to the one for next year, which is called Year B, which is the Gospel of Mark. Now, Matthew had all sorts of particular characteristics. I love it, the fact that the Gospels are put together by real people with their own interests and needs and ways of doing it. And Mark is very different to Matthew, and we'll pick up some of the particular things about Mark as we go on. But if you have time, I really recommend you watch a video. I'll put a link to it in the text below. A video by a theologian called Paula Gooder, who explains really beautifully clearly about what makes Mark, what it is about Mark's gospel that makes it unique. It's really good, really easy to listen to, and it's well worth spending 20 minutes or so watching it now, so that throughout the whole year you're queued up to listen to the very particular things that Mark does. Okay, so go and have a look at the Bible reading if you haven't got it. Just need to get my notes. This Sunday, the first bit we're looking at in Mark isn't Mark 1, that comes next week, slightly oddly, but it's Mark 13, verses 24 to 37. So go and have a read of that now. It's not a very well-known passage, this. So go and have a look at it and then come back. Right, you're back. Good. Before I get into it, you've hopefully got one of these, which is a sheet which explains the Bible passages that we're going to be looking at and some questions to get you thinking. This replaces these booklets that I've been given out before. It's the same sort of idea, but these are a bit quicker to make. It took quite a long time to staple and fold and get these together. If you really prefer the booklets, let me know. If I don't hear otherwise, we'll go for these because they're a bit simpler to put together. But if you missed the fact that you had one of these booklets, let me know and we'll go back to it. Okay, so Mark 24 to 37. It starts off with a really strange bit of writing, a really poetic piece of writing about the end of the world. It says that the skies will be darkened. It says the moon will stop shining. It says the stars will fall out of heaven. The powers in the heavens will be shaken. And this is what I've tried to represent. I hope you can see this okay. And this painting for this month, I try to do a painting each month to introduce the theme. And this is a picture of the stars in heaven falling. I'm experimenting with different styles in my painting, so I don't know whether you like this style or not, but this is a more abstract picture, the stars in heaven falling. But what does that mean? What does it mean? It's Jesus and Mark, so Jesus spoke these words, Mark wrote them down. They both use ideas from the Old Testament, the prophets, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Amos, Daniel, and they weave together this picture of what it's going to be like in the future. But I want to focus on this bit about the stars falling. Now, the skies in the Isle of Man, as you know, are beautifully clear at night, at least when there's no cloud. But when you get a clear night, the stars are beautifully clear, these pinpoints of light in the sky. And people used to think that they were just dots above us which could fall down. Now we know that that's not true. This can't be taken literally. It doesn't literally mean that the stars are going to fall. They're not little things that could fall down towards us. But what it means is that the powers of evil, the powers of chaos, the invisible forces, the spiritual forces that make people do bad things, they're going to stop existing. Evil and chaos will come to an end. All through the book of Mark, there's a battle between Jesus and the forces of evil, the spiritual forces. These aren't people. We're not talking about evil people falling from power. In the week that's just been, President Mugabe has quit. We're not talking about that sort of star falling. This is a spiritual thing. We're talking about the forces of evil falling and the powers in heaven falling. This is what the Bible is saying will happen. Jesus was saying in the future they're all going to fall. They're all going to go. There'll be a new era dawned where there won't be any evil or death and destruction. Jesus is going to save the world, in other words. Now let me just show you this. I found this in the library in Peel the other day. It's a Bible, but it's a very particular type of Bible. It's called the Scofield Reference Bible. It was first published about 100 years ago. It's very popular in America. I don't know why they've got it in Peel Library, but this particular version of the Bible is notorious. It's had an impact way beyond what you'd expect, and a bad impact. This Bible, if any Bible is bad news, it's this one. Let me explain why. At the end of it, after Revelation, there are some extra bits. Now there's a concordance and a dictionary, which are all good, fair enough, but then you get some essays. Mr. Scofield put together a few essays where he explained what he thinks about the world. And because it's bound up in the Bible, some people have taken this to be Bible truth, gospel truth. But it isn't, it's his ideas. And he goes a bit far. This one in particular, essay number 2, called The 7 Dispensations, is the one that has caused the most damage in my opinion. He uses various Bible verses, including this one from Mark, and he elaborates this really detailed theory that humankind goes through 7 distinct phases, and he's able to give some timings on this. It's all a bit too much, really. It's all a bit too precise. And this is where we get the idea of the rapture from. Scofield invented the rapture. The idea that in the future, the Christians would be taken away from the earth, and the people who weren't Christians would be left behind, and there'll be all sorts of wars for thousands of years. The earth would get trashed in that time. The rapture is not a biblical concept. It comes from this essay at the back of this particular Bible. I don't know what you think about the rapture. It may not have entered your Christianity at all, which I think is a good place to be. Keep it that way. If you have absorbed ideas of the rapture, I humbly suggest that you go and read about it, find out a bit more, pursue it a little bit, because I don't think it's a very helpful idea. I don't think it's true, and I think it has dangerous consequences, particularly the fact that because after the rapture the earth is going to be destroyed really wrecked by these wars, that's led to the kind of mindset that we don't really need to take care of this earth, because very soon us Christians, we're going to leave anyway. It doesn't matter, it's going to get ruined. It's led to a careless attitude towards the earth, which is wrong. So anyway, Scofield Reference Bible, leave it alone, leave it alone. So back to Mark. The stars will fall. The powers of evil will come to an end. But when? Because we still experience their no, yeah, we experience their influence today. They're still affecting things today. When will it happen? And that was what people wanted to know back then. And the rest of this passage is playing with the idea of knowing when it will happen. And the basic answer is, we don't know. This is a mystery. This is a mystery. It talks about the need to be watchful and awake. Back in those days, the doors to houses were locked with a bolt on the inside. So when you went out and you were coming back late at night and you had to have your door locked, you couldn't get in. So you had to employ a doorkeeper who stayed awake while you were out doing whatever you were doing. So when you came back and knocked on the door, they would be awake, ready to unlock the bolt and let you in. And Mark is saying that, or Jesus is saying that we need to be like doorkeepers. We need to be awake, the sort of people who can stay awake and don't lose focus. Stay focused on the fact that this world is coming to an end. There are forces of darkness at play that we need to have nothing to do with. We need to completely divest ourselves from any involvement in the forces of evil because they're coming to an end. We need to be awake, ready for the Master to come, the time when the new era dawns. Okay, now Mark uses a really interesting word for time. The standard word in Greek for time is chronos. From that we get the English words like chronological, where things happen in a set order. Chronos is time ticking on, the normal way that we understand time. But the stars falling, Mark doesn't use the word chronos to describe when it happens. He uses a different word, kairos, which means a new age, outside of time. In other words, he's saying that the stars kind of have already fallen and they're going to fall in the future. It's not something that happens on a particular date. It's just a new phase of existence that's already there. And there are all kinds of clues in the Bible passage which point towards the crucifixion as being the main point when the stars fell. There's the sky being darkened. In the doorkeeper passage, it talks about 4 phases of the night when the Master may come back. And these 4 phases are very clearly used later as episodes in the Passion crucifixion narrative. There's the evening, where the Last Supper happened. There's midnight in the Garden of Gethsemane. Remember when the disciples did fall asleep, when they didn't stay awake. There's the cock crowing in the morning, when Peter denied Jesus. And then there's the morning, where Jesus was actually tried and executed. So there's a real kind of poetic sense here that the stars fell when Jesus was crucified. But that new era hasn't quite fully dawned yet. We've got the era where the stars are still there influencing people, and the future where the stars are consigned to oblivion. And we're living with both at the moment, and we await a time when the stars fall completely. Now, it's not. So this is the passage that we've got for Sunday, and there's not a simple little message about using your talents or anything like that. This is a poetic image. So I pray that these words will be planted in you, and you'll let them grow. You'll water them, give them some light, let them grow.